Hello, everybody. All right, let's figure this one out. Okay, so what I was asked to do here was to make a very actionable presentation. So I'm going to try to do that in 5 minutes and go. Okay, so what we're talking about today is e-commerce. And in e-commerce, there's really only two ways to make money. Okay, it all comes down to our emoji right here. It's either drive more visitors to your site or platform or convert more of them. That's it. So no matter what anyone tells you, that's basically how it works. All right, today we talk about UX. So we're going to talk about user experience and how to convert more users, right? Okay, I'm moving very quickly here. So to do this, I want to get you guys to stand outside of whatever box you work in and really think about your website from like a user experience, like under that lens. So to do that, here are a couple things. So every e-commerce website pretty much has these type of pages, right? So you've got your home page, a category page, a product page, sometimes called PDP, product detail page, if you're fancy like that, and checkout pages, right? And then some websites also have what you might call landing pages, which are really meant to be purely conversion plays, or content pages, which are more of an educational kind of thing. So think like that. That's a good step. Okay, next. So this is how most people think their customer journey works and how things go. It's like they land on the homepage, stuff happens, and then they buy. And I don't think I'm crazy in saying that's how most people think about things. So you might also think of it in a more detailed way, like if they start at the homepage, they go to a category page. They go to a product page because that's where they have to buy things, and then they check out, right? I mean, it's better, right? It's slightly more like thought out model. But the reality is there's just a ton of different paths that happen, and it's really hard to kind of narrow them down to what you really want, which is the golden path, right? What I like to call the golden path anyway. So what you really want to know is what's the optimal path to conversion and how do you get your users to do that, right? So remember, we talked about our lens, thinking about your website as certain type of pages, and now you're going to think of them this way. So basically, if you take that model I gave you and you then apply it here, if you think of everything as a funnel, and you should always think of everything as a funnel realistically, and I'm sure everyone's heard this before, so it's a very boring comparison, but it's true. They land somewhere, then they navigate your website, then they start the checkout process, then they buy, and hopefully they buy again, right? So if you start thinking of everything that way, if I give you one thing after this conversation, that'll be a pretty good start, I would say. What I actually want to do is give you maybe two examples of something you can think about for your businesses. So let's do that now. So I'll give you DAVIDsTEA as an example, and if you look at our website, give it time, we're testing it. But when we designed our new website launch in April, we realized with time that we left the navigation option and menu on our checkout process. And actually, a fourth of users were just leaving during the checkout process because they were clicking away. So that was like a revelation. So we said, hey, let's just get rid of that. That seems obvious, right? But it seems really obvious, but when you really think about it, you really have to, you might miss these opportunities in your businesses. So like really take time to think about what I was talking about there. I'll give you another one from Airbnb without revealing any secrets because I'll get killed. But if you look at on the desktop, there's like 6 filters, right? So you've got individual ones like dates, guests, home type, price, et cetera, and then more filters. Everything's kind of grouped that way. And I use this example because I imagine everyone has used Airbnb more or less, right? If you look at their mobile website or on the app, you'll see that there's actually only 3 filters. So there's 2 primary ones, which are dates and guests, and then everything else is grouped under filters. It's not an accident, I'll have you know, right? And I'll talk about this more now, but there's a reason why those are separate. It's because they work. All right, so I'm going to talk about how you guys get started if you haven't done this, and a lot of you maybe are more advanced, but in it, I'll tell a couple other things. Okay, so 1, get tracking, get Google Analytics. If you don't do any kind of testing or anything, and sorry, I'm going to run out of time, so you can talk to me afterwards. You can get Google Optimize. It's free. It helps you do testing. It's pretty cool. Simple to install. So do that. All right. If you want to look, that's what I was talking about with Airbnb, is you want to look for metrics or behavior that correlate positively with conversion. And there's more nerdy ways of doing this, but simple enough. If you have Google Analytics, you can kind of see more or less some of this. So I would recommend starting with users who perform a search on your site. If you have a search function, take a look at that. Really good opportunity. And users who use filters, really underrated. People have really bad filter functions on their websites most of the time, and those work really, really well. So take a look at users who do that. You'll see something, I'm pretty sure. And then you can get more advanced and look at like users who look at more PDP views, so more product page views, and does that correlate with higher conversion rate? Most of the time it does. So take a look at that. That's like next level. And then some last things in my last 5 seconds. take a look at multiple dimensions. So if you're looking at like where they come in from a traffic source in GA, if it's organic traffic, it's paid traffic, et cetera, take a look at that. Take a look at where they land. You look at the combination of the two. I think you'll find a lot of things there. AdWords campaigns, same ideas. And then the last concept, which is a little more advanced, but start thinking about conversions as more than just sales. Really think about micro conversions, so things like email signups, or even users who read your content. Really underrated. Oftentimes people who read your stuff usually are more likely to buy. I know, shocking, but give that some thought. All right, that's it for me. Thank you very much.
So yeah, just another quick question. So DAVIDsTEA and Airbnb, so vastly different, but incredibly interesting companies. So Airbnb is kind of a global success story in the space, right? Obviously, massive disruptor, moved into, I mean, you're right, who hasn't used it? What do you see as the biggest opportunity coming into DAVIDsTEA and sort of thinking about a brand that has some public struggles, but a massive brand that's doing, that those that love it a ton. What do you see as the biggest opportunity from an e-commerce perspective?
So I think it's a great question because I'm glad that Nick spoke first, because he talked a lot about brand building and he also talked about acquisition. And so my presentation hopefully was a corollary to that. So I think the biggest thing is when you have traditionally strong brands, companies that have have this long history. Like DAVIDsTEA's 10 years old. We just had our anniversary, so 10 years. You know what I mean? It's really a cultural shift, and I think a lot of you, if you have small companies or bigger companies, you can be more flexible. It's a little harder for us. So it's really a cultural shift of thinking about things more systematically, kind of like what I was trying to say here, and really just being way more nerdy and thinking about data. Like, don't discount that, because like nerds are going to take over everything in business. So that's how that goes.
We love nerds. Thank you so much. That's great. Okay.